Hello, everybody. Sorry for the slight delay there. My stream started the first time and it was locked in portrait mode instead of landscape, and I couldn't figure out how to change it, so I had to stop the stream and restart it in landscape. So it was telling me to change it to landscape, but it didn't show me how. Hope everybody's doing fine today, this evening, this morning, wherever you happen to be, whatever time of day it is. I basically just had to. I had a description in my previous live stream scheduled as well, and I wasn't able to redo that for this one. So I'm making pots for a gas firing I'm gonna do. Hey there, Barbara. Thank you very much. So I haven't been in my studio making pots since March. Most of you probably know why. I've been busy building my wood kiln, but I kind of had to leave it where it is now to start making some pots for a gas firing I got to do, because I've got some orders that have to be out here in a couple weeks, and I've got just some pots that I need in general as well. Yeah, sure, I'd be willing to answer some questions as long as I can see them when I look up. Let's see. Here we go. Oh, there we go. Now I figured out how to change it so that the messages stay up while I'm streaming. I used to always have to hit the button. Hey, I just learned something. So if I can answer it, sure, I'd be happy to help. Well, maybe they don't stay up because they just went away again. Let's see. Hide all, live chat, top chat, some messages. Oh, okay, gotcha. So I guess they're not gonna stay up full time. Something I was hoping would happen. You guys, can you guys hear me? Okay. Can you guys hear me? Okay. I've got my mic plugged in. I just wanted to make sure that everything's working okay with it. Hey there. Okay, good. I was waiting for somebody to respond that they could hear me. Uh, Thank you very much. I've been, I don't know who it was that asked, I've been throwing pots for, let's see, probably 20, close to 26 years now. So, just a little while. I'm actually going to do, I'm going to do one more of these large platter bowls. I'm actually going to do some flutes on the rim, but I'm actually going to let these dry for just a few minutes before I do that. Give them a chance to stiffen up a little bit. I made some earlier and I put the flutes in them right as I made them, which was fine. But if I want to do more dramatic alterations to the rim, I gotta let them stiffen up just a little bit because they're really shallow and wide as they are. So if I do too much alteration before they stiffen up just a little bit, then could definitely mess them up. Yeah, as far as where you're going to sell, it really just depends on what's available, where you live. I don't even actually have my own website set up yet, other than my Facebook page. That's something I need to work on. Um, I think I know potters that do it that sell all different ways. Um, I think it depends on where you live, the type of collectors and buyers there are where you live. If you live in an area where there are craft shows or pottery shows, that is a great way to do that to sell your work if you can get access to them. There's definitely some upfront costs there with having to pay for booth fees and get all your setup, equipment and materials, everything you need to do that. But that's definitely a great way, and it gets your pots and your name out there by people seeing you work in multiple places. Um, as far as farmers markets go, I've never tried that. Personally, where I live, that probably wouldn't be something I would choose to do. Like I said, it all depends on where you live, the kind of work you're making, how much you're going to charge for your work. So there's lots of factors that go into that. So I hate to be vague about it, but um, my work is probably priced a little bit high for going to a farmer's market. I'm also sometimes selective about the actual craft shows that I go to, because if I know it's going to be a craft show where majority of the work there is priced on the lower end, then there'll be less of a chance of me selling a lot of work, or even recouping my investment to go, and also just to get access to the clientele that will buy my work. Um, I definitely want to try to find places where people are coming and expecting maybe another, like I said, just a different, I don't say not like a level of pots, not like mine are that much better than anybody else's. I'm not trying to say that, but there's definitely places you can go where, I've been at shows though. Put it this way, I've been at shows where, I sell coffee mugs for $24. I've been at shows where I've seen coffee mugs all the way from $8 to like $50. So, there are those shows where there's that range and everybody's gonna sell something, and then there are shows where majority of the people there are selling $6 and $8 coffee mugs, and if you bring a $24 coffee mug, you're probably not gonna sell that many because the clientele is gonna expect to see that. Let's see. East Braden Prison. Yeah, I'll tell you this. I would rather make pots than all day long than price them. So I'm even as experienced as I am. I'm in the same boat as far as not liking to price pots, because um, I know what I would like to get out of them, but you also have to factor in what people are willing to pay for pots. Based on, you don't necessarily want to base everything on everybody else around you, because if your pots are of a better quality, or you take more time and put more effort into, and you got lots of time into glaze and decoration or extra steps on the making process, you don't want to just compare it to somebody who's just slapping them together and selling mugs for $6 or $8. You got to kind of compare apples to apples, but at the same time, yes, if you're just starting, it is a challenge to price work, because you really, and I would say get somebody who knows you well, that can look at your work, maybe even a peer in pottery that can look at your work and give you some tips. And don't necessarily just take everything they say to heart, but just get some tips from somebody around you who knows your work and maybe knows other potters or knows of the pottery, what they would be willing to pay for it, all those kind of things. That would help you out for sure. Uh, with me not knowing what kind of work you make, what it looks like. The wall thickness of those bowls is very thin, actually. I would say, actually, I forgot to put a foot on that last one. I would say probably only like an eighth of an inch. So they're very thin and very wide and shallow. I use those bowls for mostly my peacock bowls. That design that I do, it really flourishes on a bowl that is really shallow, and I don't use a rib on the inside of all my bowls, but for those, the way I glaze those, there really benefits by having a very smooth surface on the inside. So I use one of these mud tool ribs to really get that inside of the bowl smooth and curved. So. I'm gonna try taller pieces. Hold on just a second. There we go. Now y'all staring at the floor. Yeah, 1/8 inch wet. Yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly, but they're pretty thin. Um, so, I make the rims probably a little bit thicker than just than the walls, but I would say that. Yeah, I work with a lot of ash glazes. Well, I work with a combination of some glossy, shiny glazes, and then ash glazes. A lot of my ash glazes, well, I'll say a lot of them. Depends on the way they're fired, but um, uh, a lot of those are matte finish, and depends also on how thick they are. Um, but as far as recipes, in general, I don't just give out all of my glaze recipes, but I definitely be willing to talk about glazes in general. Um, I think working with multiple glazes is a great idea because give one of my ideas behind glazing. I'll say this: one of my ideas behind glazing is that I think looking at a nice piece of pottery, I think seeing either anywhere from 1 to 3 kind of main colors on a piece, and even different sheens. So if I can get a piece that has a gloss on it and a semi-matte and a matte finish all on the same piece, that's something I really strive for, because I think it adds a whole lot to the look of a piece by having not only a varied shape and different colors, but also different sheens. So, but that's also hard to accomplish on certain shapes. So, let me see your last comment there. Oh yeah, as far as yeah, you're gonna doing a lot of flatware. You're gonna have a lot harder time to get variations of glazes because on a vertical surface, with glaze melting and running, you're gonna be able to get a lot more variation of surface and color. Well, maybe not color, but definitely of glazes moving than you are on a flat piece. I experienced that challenge when I make dinner plates. Have the challenge of trying to get a varied looking surface with a flat piece. It's definitely something I've worked on and tried to use multiple glazes and different ways of applying the glaze. All of my ash glazes, I use by spraying them on. I've got a video or two on that on my channel that you can see how I spray glazes. That, I think, drastically affects, and you don't necessarily just have to spray ash glazes, but if you work on applying glazes in a different method, you'll get a whole lot different look based on the glazes that you're using. One of the things I need to make, and I'm going to make a couple lidded jars because I need to make an urn for my mom's best friend. Her brother passed away recently, and she asked me if I'd be willing to make an urn so her brother's ashes could be used in it. So that's one of the things I'm working on now, is just to make a couple lidded jars to be used as an urn. And with custom orders, I'm never going to make just one because I want to make sure that they're not going to be signed special or anything like that. But I definitely want to make sure I have a couple of them in the kiln that they can pick from. Hold on a second, I'll click and look back at that comment here in just a second. Oh, I definitely like on mugs, on most of my mugs, I do a different glaze on the inside than I do on the outside for a lot of my pieces. Not necessarily because I want a specific liner glaze that's I mean, it's not a bad idea to have a glaze that's very stable and refractory on the inside of a bowl or a mug, but I'm not necessarily all of mine doing it because of that. I actually think it looks really nice too to have a different color on the inside of a pot than the outside, so that's one of the reasons I do that. Hey Bruce. Well, as I said earlier, I've 26 years of practice. I would hope I can talk and throw pots at the same time. But actually, the first shop I ever worked at. No, I've actually never done any teaching. I was actually invited to do a workshop this year, and I don't know that it's going to work out because it's going to be right around the same time that I'm getting ready for my first firing in my wood kiln, and it's just not. I don't think the timing's really going to work out. So, but my first job in pottery, the first shop I worked at was a fairly high traffic spot, and they really encouraged people to come watch when you would throw. So I got comfortable talking and throwing at the same time. Hey there. Yeah, the wood kiln is really coming together nicely. I'm very happy with it thus far, and I've put a lot of thought and time and effort into that for sure. I was actually between last night and today, I was going back through some of the old photos of process of building the kiln shed and the kiln, and yeah, it's I'll definitely gonna be putting together a video once it's done of the whole progress from beginning to end. So. Or I guess I should say process, not progress. I guess it is progress from beginning to end, but process. Yeah, having the space is definitely a big one. Um, I've encouraged several people, even recently, that have come by and looked at everything. That have some people have asked me about styles of kilns, and even if you don't have as much space, I've encouraged people if they have room for a gas kiln. That it definitely opens up doors and avenues into different methods of firing. But even some of those people, if you live in a densely populated area, or the restrictions in the city limits or something like that, you may not be able to get away with having a gas kiln. So, um, but that's definitely having a wood kiln and having the space to do it is definitely very nice. Yeah, I definitely. I will tell you that handling all those brick, I definitely got to a point where uh, my hands were getting a little raw, especially on the inside of right inside like my first knuckles, on the inside of my hands from. I think it was especially from doing those arch brick because handling all those being 12 pounds a piece and having to pick them up and put the mortar on them and climb the ladder and put them all in place. It was it was actually really starting to wear on my hands a little bit. So I was kind of surprised, but it did happen. And my back was sore this morning, but that was from cutting and moving a bunch of wood yesterday. So that thought hadn't crossed my mind. I don't know what that says about me or about you, but soft fire brick, they're not a whole lot cheaper than hard brick, honestly. Um, I think soft brick uh, cost about $4 a piece. Um, hard brick probably just a little bit more than that. Really, just depends on what the temperature rating of the soft brick and the hard brick that you buy. But um, I if you know anybody actually needing soft brick that lives anywhere close to North Carolina, I've got some extra that I want to sell. I haven't really posted anywhere about them yet, but I have probably a couple thousand that I'd be willing to sell, and probably sell them for about $2 a piece. So if you know anybody close by here or willing to pay to have them shipped, I definitely I have some available. I should have measured the first one and made these the same size. That would be smart if I can find my calipers. I guess I can use a ruler. Anybody else has any questions, feel free to ask. I don't mind at all. Like I said, as long as I see it, I'm not looking down when it comes through. Oh my, the wood actually I get. I'm in have a friend who is a uh, does tree service work here locally, and I just have him when he's got cutting any trees in anybody's yard anywhere close to mine for hardwood, um, and if they don't want the wood, they want somebody to come take care of it, and maybe they don't want to pay him to haul it off. Um, he'll let me know about that and let the customer know that, and maybe get me in touch with them. Um, and then the pine that I get, the pine slabs. There's a father and son that both do sawmilling, and they rough cut pine boards, and so the slabs that they get off the outside of a log that basically they can't turn into boards. We can get those slabs from them, and basically just pay them to deliver those. And so that doesn't cost a whole lot. So it's very, very fortunate that we have access to that. And the pine slabs, those especially, I mean, there's really no use for those outside of what we do with fire and wood kilns, because you can't use pine slabs in a regular wood stove in a house because of the creosote buildup in the chimney. And so by the time we're using pine in a wood kiln, it's already 12 to 1500 degrees, so there's no creosote buildup at that temperature. See, I missed a couple of comments there. Yeah, as far as all right, casting the arch there. Yeah, soft brick and hard brick are. Oh wow, I got a lot of questions there that I missed. Okay, yeah, soft brick and hard brick are rated at different temperatures. This clay is actually Hestia from Highwater. And as far as doing the arch out of a castable, it definitely would have been cheaper, and it might have been easier, but I don't think it would have had the durability over time as doing brick, and then I cast that center with the castable. All right. Well, Barbara, I think your question's a really good one, because I've thought about that actually quite a bit, because I think that that throwing is largely a skill-based a skill-based effort. I do believe that talent does help that, but I believe, like a lot of things, I think the skill to be able to throw can be developed over time if someone puts enough effort in. That doesn't mean that, like, if somebody kind of has an artistic talent to begin with, it might come easier for them. But I do really believe that a lot of skill, a lot of throwing could be refined by skill, even if somebody does have a talent. That repetition of doing it over and over again can help somebody develop a skill that really would make a difference. And I see that in my own work, because I spent so many years working throwing production for other potters, throwing thousands and thousands of pieces, really not for myself, really helped me over time develop a skill that I kind of like what y'all were talking about earlier, about being able to talk and throw at the same time. That really, I think, only comes from just that repetition, where you've got the skill from just doing it over and over again. How many firings do I think I'm gonna. I don't know yet how many I'm gonna do each year. I'm going to do one in September, and if things go well and I need more pots for the end of the year, I might even do one more this year. Yeah, I would say as far as the arch being all castable, I don't think the weight of it is really the issue, because the weight of all that brick is is a whole lot more than castable would be. But yeah, the form, all the brick being in that shape hold themselves up. So uh, yeah, exactly, Alonzo. You don't build a kiln like that to do it the cheap and easy way. Yeah, exactly. Hey, trust me. One of my main thoughts with most things that I do is that I don't necessarily want to just do it the cheap and easy way. I mean, easy. There's nothing wrong with easy. I love doing things the easy way, but that's usually not the best way to do it. And I don't know that I was born with it, but I definitely have a very strong drive to do things the right way the first time, if at all possible, because sometimes doing it the right way or the best way is not the cheapest or not available because of the cost of it. But doing it the best way possible the first time will save you in the long run. I truly believe that. And like I said, I don't know if I was born with that or if I was taught that. I don't, remember specific lessons from my childhood learning that, but I definitely believe that wholeheartedly. And yes, building a kiln that size, I didn't want to cheapen things that I was doing for sure. Let's see the range, the price of clay. Clay here, I'd say depends on how much you buy. um, I think the cheapest I've seen clay is probably I think 37 cents a pound if you're buying a whole ton at a time. That was directly from High Water. Of course, then you got to pay for shipping. So, that's just under 40 cents a pound. But for just buying, if you were only buying 50 pounds of clay, you're going to pay a real high premium. There are clays, even some of the clays that I get for my wood kiln or that I've been using for wood firing, even I buy in a ton, some of those are 50 cents a pound, even at buying a ton. So it all depends on who's making it and where they're getting it from, how much effort they've put into it, getting all those raw materials. There's something else I think I was gonna say. Okay, I guess I got them all. I see how it is. Y'all just gonna wait until I'm in the middle of making the hardest part of this pot, and then you're all gonna ask like 5 or 6 questions in a row. You're not gonna ask them when I'm in between or doing the easy stuff. What part do I like the best? That probably changes from time to time. But I'd probably say throwing. Um, I'd say out of say, if you want to say throwing and glazing and firing, I'd probably say that glazing's probably on the bottom of those three. But there are times I definitely really enjoy glazing. It all depends. Like with throwing, I guess you're in complete control of what the pot's gonna look like in the finish. I'm thinking about Sometimes I'm thinking about how I'm going to glaze the piece based on what shape it is. So I'm doing a lot more than just throwing when I'm throwing a piece. So that's kind of exciting and makes it interesting. Um, but in glazing, I definitely love testing new glazes. But at the same time, I'd say most of the time when I get to the glazing process, I'm in a bit of a hurry, so that I so that I kind of get to a point where I don't have enough time to do all that I want to do, and that's kind of a point of aggravation. So when it comes to glazing, that can definitely be aggravating because I'm like I have so many ideas of things I want to try, but I've got a limited time frame to do that in. So I guess, but that's probably something that I could work on being better at is giving myself a little bit more time for the glazing and finishing process. Um, that would allow me to test more things. And I think that'll happen as I become more independent as far as not working for other potters and just working for myself. I'll have a little bit more time to think ahead and plan ahead about how I'm going to glaze and work on those pieces along the way instead of spending 3 or 4 days a week working for other people and then just have to work on my stuff when I have time. I think that, or at least I hope that will change, and I give myself more time um, to do those creative things in the glazing aspect. And I think I saw about 5 comments fly by there while I was answering that one. So, and I haven't been measuring any more of these tops. Y'all distracting me. All right, now I gotta look at comments. Oh, kiln openings. Yeah, yeah, that's definitely that'll be a fun one. Anytime you can sell your work. I mean, that's now some potters I know don't like to sell their work because they feel like they're begging for money. I love to share my finished work with people. So, uh, uh, let's see. All right, I'll start back. Yeah, Brent, definitely my favorite brand of wheel as well. Um, do I ever have days where my throwing is just off? Um, I can't say that I just necessarily do. Um, I'd say there are days that I'm more interested in throwing than others, and that would probably affect it more than. Um, at this point, I don't know that I necessarily would have an off day as much uh, as just if I'm bored or not interested or just would rather be doing something else, or maybe if I'm in a hurry or something like that. I think that could change it more than just having an off day, which I guess you could consider that an off day, but I don't. It's not. Yeah, I think any. Um, I know several potters that use that. I don't know as far as bloating. I would say depends on what temperature you're firing to. That would be a lot of times. Anytime you get bloating, it's usually from work being overfired. In my experience, that's the that's the thing that will cause bloating in any work, especially a darker clay body will bloat easier than a lighter clay body. Something about the iron content in clays definitely seems to kind of lower the firing temperature from like maybe a similar clay body without the iron in it. Definitely makes a big difference in reduction firings as well, which I'm assuming you're not using the speckled brownstone in reduction, but um, yeah, I definitely don't. Yeah, my back doesn't really bother me, thankfully. I spend about half my time standing up while I throw, and probably about half of my time sitting down while I throw. It really just depends on what I'm making, and I take breaks. I don't just stand there for 6 or 8 hours. I definitely take breaks and go do other things, which will definitely help alleviate that. Like even sitting here, I've got a big old cushion that I sit on, and then every once in a while I'll get up and move around so that I don't sit here too long. Yeah, as far as I don't cone up while I center. Actually, I was uh, t- talking to. Actually, I just recently, today, I just sold my old pug mill to somebody that watches my YouTube videos, and I was talking to him today as he was paying me for it over the phone. And that's one thing we talked about is he said that he said I still he said I still cone when I center. He said not like you. He said I think he said he had a friend or another potter that he watched. I can't remember which it was that didn't really cone up when they centered. And I said, yeah, it's just something different. There's nothing wrong with coning up the clay. I do sometimes, and it probably depends on the amount of clay and how stiff it is. Um, but I just if I don't need to cone it up, that's just kind of like extra time and energy I have to expend to cone that up and then push it back down. And if I can just kind of keep it all the shape that I want it and still get it centered, then that kind of cuts down on the steps and the amount of energy I have to expend to make that probably comes out of the fact of me throwing production for so many years, because a lot of my mindset towards throwing really for years and years was, okay, I know what I have to make as a finished product. What's the easiest way to get from where I am to the finished product? Because that's really all that mattered in throwing for other people was was just to get the pot thrown and get it off the wheel and start on the next one, because the quicker I got done, the quicker I got to leave and got the same amount of money. So it was really I still wanted to make a good pot, because I'm not going to just slack off because I want to get done quick, but I wanted to be able to make a quality piece and make it in a short period of time. Uh, yeah, these are like 3 pounds. Um, I just cut the clay coming out of the pug mill. I just cut it based on the length in inches a pound coming out of my pug mill. So I cut all these clay balls 3 inches. That's what I made the bowls out of that I was making at the beginning, and then I'm making all these. Just cut them up 3 pounds. Not cutting 3 pound clay balls, and I knew I needed to make this urn, and then I don't think I would hire potters to make my pots, but I would work with somebody in an apprenticeship fashion is what I would like to do eventually. And so I would definitely um differentiate my work from theirs in the sense that I would put their name or their initials on the piece when they were making them for me, and they would be here for a short period of time to work and to learn, and then move on. I don't, yeah, I don't see. I'm approaching I've worked for, let's see, let me start over. I've worked for probably 20, at least 20, maybe 30 potters in the Seagrove area and different areas over the last 25 years. So I would say I'm approaching what I'm going to do a little bit differently than most of the people that I've worked for. Um, I've learned from all of them different things about how to make pots and also how to run their business, and the way that you can approach making and selling pots, and also just looking around at other people that I admire their work and the way they run their business, and also the kind of freedom that it may give and the way they live their life and those kind of things. So I've trying to take all that in and decide what was the best way that I wanted to approach selling my work and making my work. And so I definitely, the people that I've worked for are definitely good people, but some of those people they don't really love pottery. They just kind of own a business. They happen to make pottery. And not that they hate it, but they're just in business to make pots and sell them. They're not necessarily making pots because they were like, oh man, I love pot. I love making pottery. I want to see if I can make a living making pottery. They just kind of were like, well, that's kind of neat. Well, hopefully I can make some good money doing that, and that's just what they did as a career. So that's a different mindset than what I have, because I really enjoy doing what I do, and so I want to make pots because I really enjoy it. I also want to make a living at it because you got to be smart if you want to. Put it this way, I think I heard it said recently um, that talent is rare, and so if you have talent, that's pretty amazing in and of itself. So talent is rare, but then to discover what your talent is even more rare. And so the fact that I feel like, okay, I definitely feel like I have a God-given talent, and I'm thankful for that. But then that I figured out what that talent is even more amazing. But then on top of that, to take that one more step, the fact that I actually enjoy the talent that I have discovered, I think that's pretty even overall amazing, above and beyond the first two. Um, and then I guess if you even take it one step further than that, because you could have a talent that you found out that you have that you enjoy, but then not figure out how to make a living at that, and that would be tough because, of course, that's what hobbies are for, and there's nothing wrong with those. But if you can take something that you've realized that you have a talent at, that you enjoy doing, and that you can make a living at, then I think everybody has a different approach to life. Some people just want to make a pile of money so that they can go do the things they enjoy. I want to actually enjoy my life while I'm making a pile of money. So, now I don't know that I'll necessarily do that making pots, but hey, why not dream, right? If I feel like I'm already atop of that chain of what the kind of steps that I just described, why not dream big and think, hey, I'm already have a talent that I realize I have and I enjoy doing it and I'm making a living at it. Why not take it the next step too, right? So, um, no, I seriously, I would just, uh, if I can make an honest living and even over provide for everything that I need and have a little extra to help other people and help my kids have a good future and a good start on their future. That's all I can ask for, and if I can enjoy my life and what I do for making that living while I'm doing it, man, that's pretty amazing. So that's my if you want to ask what my goal in life is, there you go. That's um, I definitely would love to make a pile of money so I could help a lot of other people. But um, and if that happens, then that's good. But that's not my biggest motivation. I want to enjoy what I'm doing with my life. That was long. I don't know if anybody commented during that, but oh, not many. So yeah, marketing your work is very important. Yes, I would say, yeah, that's definitely a big one. And the way different people, different potters, and different artists do it all different ways. Um, I've thankfully been able to market most of my work by in the process of selling it. Now I didn't start making my own work. Hold on, I'm gonna turn my air conditioning, make it a little bit cooler in here. It's warm. Yeah, I'm using the yeah, I use the tip of the wood rib. I've actually got a video on this. If you look at I think it's a 1 pound bowl video where I talk about making that foot, and I kind of take this wood rib in at the bottom, and I kind of push in to lift that clay up off the bat, and then use my thumb here to kind of roll it over, and then this finger on the other side of the pot to kind of help even it out as well. And that's how I make that little foot on the bottom. But it's already shaped on the bottom where it comes back out a little bit, so I've got that extra clay to work with when I do that. Actually, yeah, on these I've actually been cutting in when I go in at the bottom. I'm actually lifting up off the bat a little bit, so when I push in, I'm leaving that little bit of extra clay there at the bottom that I can turn into that foot. I had to think about it. A lot of times I don't think about what I'm doing while I'm doing it. It's just second nature now. I just do it. Thank you. All right, let's see. I've got 6 of those. That's enough of those. I'm just gonna make a couple of vases. I've got 4 more clay balls here. Make a couple vases, make 4 vases, and then I'll put the flutes on these 3 platter bowls that I made earlier that are hopefully not getting too stiff. No, they're good. This one's got an air bubble in it. I can feel it. Trying to find it. Right there. I'll find my needle tool. I have one around here somewhere, but I must have dropped it. I probably didn't get all the air out, but I got most of it out. If it comes. Thought I felt it again, but not showing up. pretty neat. This live stream's acting like a mirror. I can see what the pot looks like without having to sit back too far. Y'all helping me out, and you don't really back away and look at it from a distance. So. See, I don't know if I missed any comments, but I was pretty focused on that one. I've been throwing for some other potters over the last few couple months, but I've cut back on that quite a bit so that I'd have time to build the kiln, and we'll be cutting back even more here very soon to focus a whole lot more on my own work. This is pretty crazy, don't you guys think? The fact that do you make your own glazes? Yes, I actually. I'll come back to that thought in a second. I do mix my own glazes. I don't think there's anything wrong with buying commercial glazes at all. I just I like the ability to mix my own because I know what's in them. I know it's going to cost me a little bit less. Of course, you have to test glazes, which you really have to test even if you buy them. So, there's so many recipes available out there that I think buying them already pre-mixed is definitely it's definitely a great thing. But there's so many recipes out there that are available that I like the idea of mixing my own. What I was going to say before that answer that comment was, isn't it pretty crazy that here we are sitting all around the world in different places and talking to each other in a live format, and I don't know, it's just wild to me. I mean, I'm not that old, but I still remember not even having an answering machine. So if you called somebody and they didn't answer, you just had to call back at another time. You couldn't leave a message. You couldn't do anything. You just didn't get a hold of them. Nowadays, it's like, oh, hey there, from Minnesota. Welcome. My good buddy Joseph Sand is from Minnesota. Potter here in North Carolina. Actually going to be at tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. I have to be at his house in front of his wood kiln, stoking the kiln. So, country line. Yeah. Where are we at? Australia. All right, we got Minnesota. We got Australia. Jamaica. All right, I didn't know you were from Jamaica. That's awesome. Not that I would know where anybody's from. Like you can tell from their name, right? Oh, that's ridiculous. That's so funny. Korea. Hey there. Welcome. All right, Missouri. Yeah, I'm on. Actually, there's a guy helping Joseph out. He came to town, I guess, Salt Lake City. Hey there. A guy came to town from the Caribbean, and I think he was from. Golly, I can't remember the name of the island he's from now, but anyway, had to ask him because he had that Caribbean accent. But he's a really cool guy. All right, where else we got? We got Salt Lake City, Virginia. Hey, you're the closest so far to me, Virginia. That's not too far away. Arkansas. Obviously. Oh, okay, yeah. Well, your name, that doesn't necessarily mean Arkansas. You could mean that you were a doctor on the ark. when it, uh, I would have thought that you were a veterinarian. You helped out all those animals on the ark. Oh, that was bad. Bad, bad, bad. Yeah, obviously not that old. Yes, that is obviously. North Carolina. I am in right near Seagrove, North Carolina. If you look at the state, it's basically dead center, north, south, east, and west. Um, Not anywhere close to the sea, but still live in Seagrove. But I'll say not anywhere close. Definitely a lot closer to the sea than some of you. If you're in Arkansas or Minnesota or Missouri, I'm definitely a lot closer to the ocean than you guys are. But in relation to other places in North Carolina, not so much. But what kind of time commitment would I expect from an apprenticeship? Um, Listen, let me make sure I read that right. Okay, Bryce Briscoe. I don't recognize that name. But then again, there's a lot of potters. Uh, as far as if I was hiring an apprentice, or like how long should an apprentice be an apprentice somewhere? I guess either way, most apprenticeships that I know of probably last, uh, you know, 2 years is a good time frame if that's what you're asking, which I assume it is. That gives enough time to really, um, get to know the person, help them understand the process. Um, Even longer. I mean, it definitely is a possibility. But then it all depends. That's something that I guess I never did a true official apprenticeship. It would have been very nice to do, but by the time I got really serious about making my own pots versus working for other potters, I was already married, already had one child and one on the way, and just was at a point where I couldn't really sacrifice um, the income and the time to go do an official apprenticeship. I hope that answered the question. Thank you, Dr. Ark, the veterinarian. Now, that would be funny if you actually were a veterinarian. But I'm assuming you're not, or at least we already established at least you're not that old. We know that. No, I actually just let these pop off the bat when they dry. That's I don't. The only reason that I would cut them off is if I was trimming a foot in the bottom, or if I used a stamp and I needed to stamp my name in the bottom, which I don't do that. I don't trim a foot in most pieces. Um, or if I was using bats that were not good quality, where if they, if they're not real smooth, the bats that I use are masonite, tempered masonite, and if they weren't really smooth, then the the clay would tend to stick to the bat, and then you could actually end up having an issue as far as cracking the bottom of the pot, because as it's drying, it's not releasing from the bat, and that would cause the clay to separate as it kind of dries unevenly, or is not able to shrink kind of evenly. But the masonite doesn't hold a whole lot of water, so criminologist. Work with a different kind of animal. There you go. Well, I might just call you the vet, just so it'll help me remember. Yeah, you're working on different kind of animal, that's for sure. Hey, we need people of all kinds. Yeah, it works, Sally. It definitely does. Like I said, it all depends on the quality of the bats. For a while, I used some bats that were given to me that were not real smooth, and I had to cut everything off. And that works, but if you have bats that are nice and smooth, I tell you, being able to let a pot dry on the bat and when it comes off, it has a smoother bottom than you'll get any other way. And that's very nice to have. Just that nice smooth bottom that you can that you don't have to worry about sanding too much or at all, and good nice surface to have on the bottom of your piece. That's, oh, making teapots. I I've made a few, but that's something that I need to study myself. Actually, I've made some and I enjoy making them, but that's definitely not something that I've studied a whole lot, and I need to, because um, some of the shapes that I've made, um, I've realized we're not the best as far as the spouts and things like that. I mean, I have the basics down of making them and what I need to do, but to really refine the shape of a teapot, that's something I definitely need to study. Somebody that's made more of them and that maybe has studied that culture a little more, and the people that have really refined what a teapot is and what it needs to be, um, how it needs to be made. There are definitely some tips and tricks when it comes to teapots that I don't know. Um, and I'm personally not a huge tea drinker, and so it's not something that I have learned from that side either. think I either need to go really small or go wider, so I guess I'll try to go really small with this top. The kind of in between looked out of place. I need to be making crystalline if I'm gonna do tops like that. I'm not sure I really like that, but it'll do for now. Oh, that won't fit on that shelf. It's too tall. Sorry. I know there's a few comments in there. No, I didn't make my own bats. Let's see. Go back. Let's see. Yeah, the untempered masonite definitely does not work. They soak up too much water. Yeah, I don't make my own bats. I had somebody locally make those for me. But if you can find tempered masonite, you can definitely make your own fairly easily. My gas kiln, I didn't make it, but the design, it's just a metal frame that was welded together and then lined with a soft brick. So it wouldn't be that hard to make if you could weld, or if you know somebody local that was a decent welder. It wouldn't be that hard to actually make one similar to it. I have had somebody come and measure the one that I have and has made one very similar to it here locally. This is 3 pounds of clay, Nancy. No worries about joining late. Washington State, I assume, if you're in Montana for a couple of days. That's closer than Washington, D.C. going to Montana, but these are not already sold, Alonzo, other than I got to make one of those jars from earlier into an urn, as I mentioned earlier. These vases will probably be in like a, I don't know, maybe a $60 range. Really depends on how they turn out, how much work I do after the fact too, if I add, handles or medallions and things like that. Sorry, I missed all that comment there. I missed some of it. Okay, no, I don't trim most of my pots. I'm not against trimming. I love the look of pots that are trimmed. I just try to use the talent and skill that I've developed over the last 26 years to try to make the pot as refined as I can without having to trim it. And if I feel that if I can get a refined shape and get the weight out of a piece all at the same time without having to trim it, then I think that shows just as much skill as trimming a foot. There's definitely a skill involved in that. Depends on who you ask. If you ask certain teachers or professors, they would tell you it's not, especially on bowls, that unless it has a trim foot, it's not a pottery bowl. I'm like, well, whatever. if I can the amount of time it takes you to trim one bowl, I can throw three that look just like it and not have to trim it. I think that's pretty cool too. So, like I said, not that it's all about production, but um, you know, it is kind of nice to you know, not spend all my time trimming and I can go do something else or make more pots. All right, hold on a second. For a large serving bowl, well, that all depends on your skill level. But I'd say, at least 3 pounds, if not more. Depends on, like I said, how many people you're serving as well. Um, how wide is this cylinder before I form it? Let's see. This one is only 4 inches wide. And 11 and 3/4 inches tall. All right, let's see what else I missed. Let's see. Yeah, I'll definitely be salting the wood kiln. Don't know exactly how much salt yet I'll be putting in. We'll kind of gauge that as I go. I'll probably put some test rings in the first firing, and that way I can kind of check them as I go. I'm going to put some flutes on these. I think there's about 3 of these that I didn't alter the edge on. I'm going to come back and do that now. Once they've stiffened up just a little bit, I can be a little bit more extreme with the alteration on the rim. So, makes them really cool. Oops, nope. Saying low battery, hopefully it didn't pause my video. £1 per cubic foot. Yeah, that's yeah. These are going to be peacock bowls. There you can see the design on that one. Actually, got 2 more to do. This one I forgot to define the foot on before I laid it down. I don't know if I can do that now. Maybe if I take this off. I think I bumped the rim on it there when I was putting it down, didn't I? There, I got a little bit of a foot trimmed on there. I should have been doing this by the points on the back. Would have been a whole lot easier. Alright, let's see. That one's a little wild. looks pretty cool, doesn't it? Alrighty. Well, I will look at the last few comments here, and then we'll be done, because I've run out of clay balls, and probably need to go in and help put the kids to bed. So let me look here. Jeff just live streams. I've just done those randomly. I haven't necessarily done them on a regular schedule, and a lot of times I don't even plan it ahead of time. I've just been surprised I'm live. So, but if you definitely subscribe and follow and hit the notification button, you'll get the notifications when I do go live or when I post a new video. Am I going to raw fire in the wood kiln? Definitely not initially. I'm going to start with bisque fire and everything, just mainly because that's the way I've been firing all of my work, even firing with my friend Joseph. I've been firing all of my work with it being bisque fired. Main reason for that was I had to travel with it up to his place, which is about 20 or 30 minutes from my home, and so it was easier to travel with. But also, the way that I glaze, I'm still very comfortable with that, and I don't know that I want to change my whole process of glazing and have to adjust to that, especially for my first few firings. So it's not really that hard to bisque fire. I know it takes a little longer and a little more energy, but it'll give me the flexibility to glaze. If you're actually glazing greenware, you have to do that at a very specific time as well. And if I'm bisque firing everything, I really don't have to worry. I have to make sure I put the slip work on at a specific time. But even a little bit of that is flexible. But if I'm bisque firing, I don't have to worry about glazing. I can kind of do all that at one time, which I would really kind of prefer that, because I can get all my work made and slip trailed and then get it all dried, bisque fire, and then once I'm glazing, I can glaze a whole lot of work at one time, especially if I'm going to spray glaze. It's a whole lot easier to spray a whole lot at one time than to have to spray a little bit here, clean up the gun, clean up the glaze, and then spray again in a few days, whatever. It'd be a whole lot easier to spray it all at one time. So, but all these pots I made today are going to be going in my gas kiln. So I've got some mugs to make and some ornaments, all different kinds of things that I've got orders for. I've got a dinnerware set that I have an order for as well, but I don't know that if I'll have time to get that made and dried in the time that I need to get these pots out. But I'll be getting that one out soon either way. So anyway, any more comments, questions before we adios? Just looking back through. You're definitely welcome, Jeff. Glad you found the channel, and welcome. I hadn't posted many videos in the last 2 months, 3 months, because I in 10 weeks time frame, I went from my kiln being about I'd laid about 2 or 3 courses of brick all the way from that to having the arch finished in like 10 weeks. So I still have to build the chimney and do a couple other minor things, but you're definitely welcome, Alonzo and Sally. Oh, expected capacity. All I know is based on the cubic feet of what I figured, it's probably about 100 cubic feet of stacking space for pots. So that's a lot of pots. All right, see you, Vet. Yeah, that's a lot. I mean, my gas kiln is probably 25, 26 cubic feet, and it holds a lot of pots. So 6 times that, that's a lot of stinking pots. So I did not get a degree in ceramic arts. I have a PhD, actually, plain high school diploma. That's sorry, another dad joke, a bad one. No, I just have a high school diploma. I wanted to go to college, but at the time it was all because I just didn't want to. I just wanted to go for social reasons, and that was a bad reason to spend a minimum of $40,000, upwards of a whole lot more. So just have done it the old-fashioned way. I've worked in it for 25 years and learned a whole lot, and it's been great. So, yeah, no degree at all, and maybe one day I'll somebody will give me an honorary degree. Yes, definitely go catch some bad guys. That would be great. We like less bad guys in the world. Less bad guys is better. That's one time less is more for sure. So anyway, not everyone. Sorry, did I read that right? Not everyone is meant. Yeah. Yes, ceramics is my sole source of income. You have that exactly right. I have been working for other potters as my main source of income, throwing pots for them for several years, and then probably last year was probably the first year that selling my own work surpassed the amount of income I made working for other potters. And so, of course, I took more time making my own work last year, and just had a really good year. So, starting to do that transition, beginning, middle, and towards the end of this year, that I'm transitioning out of working for other people, and well, Sally, if you ever want to buy one, I'll charge you a whole lot more. How's that? That'd just be bad, wouldn't it? But no, I'm working on prices. Trust me, Sally. I've had several people tell me things are too cheap, and you know. But at the same time, I've always been that balancing act of like, okay, I need to sell it because I got bills I need to pay, but I know it's worth this. So finding finding how much you know. Oh, FedEx, yeah, to Jamaica, right? Finding out what I can charge for things and what I think they're worth. You know, it's you know, there's definitely a balance there, and I try to achieve that. So, anyway, that's it. Hope you guys had fun, and I'll hopefully be doing a single mug for $80. Yes. Well, I guess if my name was Kurt Hammerly, I would do the same thing. But yeah, I know people that do that. Up my prices. Yes. I'll work on. Hey, put it this way: I'm definitely will have to because. The estimate, if you guys have watched the videos that I made when I talked about how much my kiln was going to cost to finish, that was way too conservative because just this year I've spent, I don't know, $12,000 to $15,000 just this year working on the kiln. So yeah, I'm definitely going to have to adjust a few prices just to help me recoup the investment because otherwise my wife's going to shoot me. So anyway, that's that, and hope you guys had fun. Uh, Thanks, Sally. I appreciate it, and we'll see you guys next time. Probably, who knows what the next video will be? I don't even know yet, but we'll see you guys then. And if you have any questions, just send them over on YouTube or Facebook. And anyway, you guys have a good night, good day. We'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye.